Was that the questionnaire I filled out? Was that like helpful for you?
No.
It was very like PR focused.
But you guys just said like, I want to talk about AI, AEO. And I was like, yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of expected that.
I spent like 5 minutes. I have like 5 minutes on that maximum.
That's the idea. AEO?
Yeah. So when we said AEO, like, was there anything specific we wanted to talk about? I have so many questions and I can frame them to get you guys into debates and stuff.
I mean, it'll get interesting.
What's interesting?
It depends on what you want to know. For sure. It definitely. I mean, we could talk macro, we could talk micro, we could talk about like what is AEO? Like what is the concept of what we're doing here? Like
what is AEO?
I mean, AEO is it's the answer to the question, like how do you market to people who are using answer engines? How do you actually get your products, brands, services to show up in tools and platforms like ChatGPT, Perplexity, Google AI overviews, Google AI mode? So it is the practice and art and science of doing that and doing it repeatably.
Is there a difference between AEO and GEO and AISO and LLMO and...
Besides the headaches.
I heard another one too. Is like SAIO or something. I didn't even know what it was.
As far as I see it, AEO is the best term because consumers are moving from search being the means to the end itself. Like consumers, they don't want search results. They want answers. And so the engines that provide those answers are answer engines. And we're optimizing to make brands, products, services, the answers to people's questions. People are calling it generative engine optimization. I think it's like totally fine, whatever, 3 stars out of 5. I think when you say things like that, though, it's like, it's really not the generative part that we're really thinking about. We're really thinking about hyper obsessing over answers for customers. And it embodies kind of the modality shift of like user behavior, right? People want answers. They want to understand what is recommended and what's the best thing in the world, right? What's the best car? What's the best CRM? What's the answer? ChatGPT will give you that.
I think that makes sense, like logically speaking. It's just too vowel-y.
Answer engine optimization, AEO.
You need like a hard consonant to like kind of close it out.
But if you search GEO, you just get globes.
Geography,
right?
Yeah, you get
geography,
like geolocales. Yeah.
And G2 just changed their category name from GEO to AEO.
Oh, really?
True.
Yeah.
I plant a flag in both arenas. I want to win whatever. So I just say what the CMO says. I'm like, whoever's the budget, that's what I say. So we've got listicles for both. Yeah. Is AI search going to kill traditional search?
I don't think AI search is going to like kill traditional search. And if like those things come into like direct conflict with each other, I think it's going to be more like they coalesce into one unified experience more than like there is no room for SEO. Like my perspective is that in 5 to 10 years, basically the way that Google AI mode operates, where you have to like click into those AI generated answers, you're going to have to click into seeing the 10 links. It'll be like, show me the Carfax. Like what are the actual raw results behind this? But we know from the way Google's moving and the way that everyone's kind of moving that really like these new AI answer engines and these new AI experiences are really a capitulation to this new user experience. Like Google is willing to admit, hey, we've done the testing. We've put billions of dollars of resources into this. We know that the future of search is definitely going to be in a chat experience. Like people want to chat with their search engine. They want those personalized results. And like if you think about search in 10 years, we're not going to see more. We're not going back. We're not going to go do more backlinks or more blue links. We're going to go forward towards something that's flatter, towards something that's much easier with user experience. User experience always wins in the end. That's my perspective.
There's that concept. I think it's Delphic costs. Have you heard of that? It's I believe a guy from Google wrote, or he did a presentation on a bunch of Google stuff, search stuff. But the Delphic cost was the concept of like lowering the friction or like the time or cognitive effort it takes to find an answer. I've seen mixed research on the user experience side of AI in terms of like AI overviews, especially. I think I saw a data point where there was like an extremely large trending search for like, how do I remove AI from Google search results or something? And then I remember, was Kevin Indig the one who put the study out, like the user experience of AI overviews? And there's a lot of lack of trust. But I think your take is really interesting because, it's interesting because I agree with it, but it's this convergence, right? Like I see that as like this interesting model where I feel like ChatGPT in specific, their interface is resembling search in many interesting ways. Like I'm seeing map packs and images and YouTube videos at times, and then it's getting functionally easier to click on the links. And I think we're seeing a commensurate rise in sort of click-through rates and referral traffic. Y'all would know that. You're putting out the research on this. So I don't know if that's even right. But it does seem like both of those worlds are kind of converging into one kind of like amorphous, I don't know, will we call it AEO? Will it be just like organic. I don't
The
even
thing is,
know.
like, SEO up to this point has eaten everything. SEO ate social search. SEO ate like e-commerce. SEO has eaten zero-click search back before it was even AI zero-click. It was like, people also asked. People were like, "Oh my God, is it the death of SEO?" Back in 2019, when people were looking at like featured snippets. It'll be interesting to see like what we call it. I think like fundamentally, people, if people are searching for things and there's an engine that arbitrates what shows up, there will be people who want to optimize for it. It's just like a rule of, the universe. It's like, how do I make my brand better?
And I think this is before we were rolling, you worked at HubSpot before, and you said you worked on SEO at HubSpot.
I did.
So that's really interesting. What, in your experience, is the tactical or strategic difference from SEO and AEO?
I think the shift in the way you have to think about it is that you're no longer providing value to users per se. You're trying to give answer engines the resource or the material to create the answer. So what that actually looks like in tactical respects is when someone asks an answer engine, like, what's the best men's running shoe? The answer engine is not going to go to Adidas's site. It's not going to go to Nike's site. It's not going to go to Puma's site. It's going to go to a listicle or an article that directly says the 10 best men's running shoes are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's going to grab those top results because they're directly presented as an opinionated, high utility, factual answer. And it's going to go back to the user and be like, these are the best ones. The Nike this, the On Running this, the Hoka that. These are the ones you should choose. The real philosophy behind this is the fact that we need our results to both be hyper utilitarian. So we're in like this high utility content world where we're shifting from thinking about keywords and backlinks and authority into thinking about how much raw value does this piece of content provide, and accessibility to answer engine crawlers. So if it provides all the value in the world, but that piece of content is rendered entirely with JavaScript, or it's uncrawlable, or whatever, for whatever myriad of reasons, the answer engine can't see it, doesn't really matter. So you have to have both of those things, and there are new criteria for both of those. So it's definitely evolving in that direction for sure.
I have a lot of questions on the tactics. Nick, did you work in SEO at all before this? You were mostly on the paid side,
I was
right?
mostly on the paid side. Before this, I was Loom's head of growth marketing, and I stood up their whole SEO program. If you would ask me, like, are you an SEO? I would say no. I'm like much more of a paid person, but somewhat ironically, like I'm the one who's helping doing AEO for Profound. I'm the one who's helping write all of our content. And I don't really care about SEO metrics, like perhaps unsurprisingly. For us, I care about how visible are we in AI search. That's my job.
It's hilarious to me because I've done my own research, because we're probably competing for not the same terms and phrases, but very, very similar, right? We have similar audiences, I would say. You guys are a software, we're a service, right? So I've seen your work come up, not just on Profound site, but I've seen some other stuff, and I won't give the secrets away. But I'm like, I see what Nick's doing over there.
Yeah, it's funny. People, there's multiple people, and I appreciate you not saying the exact thing that came, but that is like some of the secret sauce right now is me experimenting with things. And there's so much I want to talk about on LinkedIn, like I'm just not ready to talk about yet. But there's a lot of blue ocean for AEO of like what you can do with your own website or with a different website as well, that I think brands are just barely scratching the surface on.
Well, that's the thing, and I'll dive into this much deeper later, but the not on your site is like the most emergent value area with AEO or GEO, right? As opposed to just like thinking about ranking and like pages and like, all right, where am I positioned? All that stuff. Well, what is your experience? How long have you been at Profound?
4 months.
4 months is not a long time. It's like an eternity in the space. Yeah. So what was your experience diving into this world, having less of a background in SEO? Like, has it been overwhelming, exciting? What's your emotional contour?
Definitely exciting. I mean, working at Profound is unlike any other place I've worked at so far. And I think me not having a more traditional SEO background, like in the sense of I have not done SEO for the last 10 years of my career, I think is actually a benefit of I don't come in with a lot of old baggage. I haven't been through, all these big algorithm updates from Google that have scarred me in some way, that I have a new, fresh perspective. And I think it helps that like one of my goals or KPIs is not impressions or click-throughs from SEO, like non-branded search. I care about basically everything else besides that. And so I'm kind of more positioned to just be almost like eyes wide open to come into this and have interesting new perspective on things without any of the old SEO baggage.
So a quick question for you on that. The old SEO baggage, I'm assuming that there's some overlap, or I mean, I know there's some overlap, right? But it depends on how your KPIs and you're approaching that. How much, when you're doing content planning or marketing for Profound, not necessarily your customers and what they're seeing in terms of success, how much do you look into classic SEO techniques? Like, are you still using keyword research to like dictate some of the planning, or is it fully? How do you come up with topic ideas? Like,
I mean, I guess like this is probably a very SEO answer, but I don't look at keyword data at all. Like I look at our customers' data. I look at our call recordings. I've taken probably 50 demos of Profound and led them all. I've closed deals, like where my name is on the contract. If like I've closed this deal. And so I pull all of that data into what I want to write about. And then I combine that with LinkedIn, like social data as well. All the stuff SEOs say they should have been doing this whole time. And like, I literally don't look at, keyword volume data in traditional search. We have in our Profound account, we have, our topics that we try and be really visible for in AI search. And so I look at what are we tracking? What buckets are those? And then how do I go make content for those? And then what other questions are our customers or prospects asking us that we can go answer? I have a blog post about AEO versus GEO. It's like, what is this? Are they the same? Are they different? My opinion is Josh's opinion on that too. And so a lot of those are sourced from what does Josh hear on the front lines? What do I hear when I do demos with people? And that becomes content for us.
That makes a lot of sense. I'm curious from both of y'all's perspective, given we just ran through the backgrounds here, has anything in your understanding of AEO changed since you started working in the space?
Oh my gosh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, the space is completely different than when I started. I can give you an example. Like Reddit's up 800% in the last 3 months. Yeah, Reddit started right around 1% of all citations in the world. Just within ChatGPT, if we just kind of zoom into that data set, it's up to 800%. So there's plenty of little things, right? Like the fact that ChatGPT stopped using Bing as its main search provider. So people used to pretty I would say reliably figure out that, or at least they could reliably depend on the fact that if they were indexed on Bing, they were at least discoverable in ChatGPT. Now with ChatGPT moving off of Bing, there's lots of questions. Are they using SERP API? Are they using Exit.com? There's tons of different kind of leading theories right now as to how ChatGPT is searching or surfacing results, but that's totally shifting. So I think the interesting part of the industry is that we're definitely at maximum volatility where even the people Google would never think to just randomly increase a page's performance or even an entire domain's performance, that it's a leading top 10 domain by 800% in 3 months. People would go insane. But the fundamentals of how brands are kind of expected to invest in this space are definitely evolving on a daily basis. It's definitely true.
I have some follow-ups there, but Nick, anything?
Yeah, I mean, I think the interesting thing is when GPT-5 came out, I think some brands noticed, decreases or increases in referral traffic coming from that. And to me, that was almost the first watershed signal of the OpenAI's version of an algorithm update, basically. And I think it caught a few people with unprepared, basically. And so even in this short time that, I've been looking at this, that, models change, the underlying data set of those models can change very quickly. And I think much faster than SEOs are maybe used to as well. And so how do you stay on top of that? How do you always monitor where things stand in the, SERP results of ChatGPT?
So there's higher volatility. We can say that pretty clearly.
For sure.
That obviously begs the question then, how does a brand invest? Because it's still a long-term play, right? If you want to, saturate the web with brand mentions and, co-occurring categories. And it's if Reddit is the surface area du jour and who knows, that might change tomorrow. How do you make bets in terms of where you're allocating your resources? That feels like a hard challenge. Whereas previously you kind of had a mental model of all right, here's a keyword, here's the search intent, here's a page I have to create.
Yeah.
I'll drive some backlinks and internal links, right? Page performance and all of that stuff. But if your mental model is shifting so rapidly, within 3 months, 800% increase in Reddit as a salient platform, how does one even choose to allocate time and attention to a given tactic?
Yeah.
First of all, I think agility is a moat in this channel. The ability to say, okay, screw it, I am going to embrace what is changing on a month-to-month basis. That's really powerful. First of all, I think besides that, if we're thinking about a channel per channel strategy, owned has never gone away. Your own website is like your fortress in AI search, as far as I understand it. There has never been a world where if you're posting the right stuff on your site is not going to be specifically targeted or specifically, devalued or delisted by AI search, unless there are some like fundamental spammy things that you're doing, like creating thousands of pages or getting punished massively or totally de-indexed off of all search engines. But that's another interesting point, though, is like, if you're de-indexed off of literally every other search provider, you will also get a knock-on effect with AI search. Eventually, it'll start declining for you as well.
So don't do spammy stuff.
Don't do spammy stuff regardless, whether on AI or normal SEO, traditional SEO.
Well, people are saying, and sorry to interrupt, I'm hearing advice that we should create thousands of very niche, highly specific pages that hit every single persona, for instance, right? Like you hit like 100 different industries, like SEO for fintech, SEO for healthcare, SEO for this. And it's like you just like programmatically generate these pages. My heuristic is that if AI didn't exist, would this be useful? Would this be a valuable tactic? And if the answer is no, it may still warrant an experiment, but it's like there's going to be a risk associated.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I think like the way you have to think about the pages you should create for AI search are the same way you think about the pages you create for normal search, which is that you have a finite crawl budget. There is literally a certain amount by which Google will address and access and value your pages, depending on how many pages you have. But besides that, the actual user data should still lead. The prompt volume should tell you what people are really kind of hungry for, regardless of the programmatic side. Because creating 10,000 different pages for every possible niche for your product, well, interesting in concept. It's dangerous, I think, in the long term, especially since maybe the value of that strategy is high right now. Given the adoption rate of that strategy, if it was the best strategy in the world, the adoption rate and the actual barrier to entry for that strategy is so low that the relative value of it's going to completely diminish once people really start adopting it. Like even sans an algo update, even if it was just totally organic, having everyone with every possible like contextualization of their product on a page means that information architecture and that space just gets super choked out. So I think you have to be cognizant of kind of the meta and kind of macro view as well, right? Like we want to be doing things that differentiate us from our competition, not just, stand alongside or continue to kind of fall in line with this, especially this like new body of research.
Yeah. And I would say doing it quickly too, like Josh mentioned, like agility is a moat, like speed is also a moat too. I think some teams are used to planning out a content calendar of like the next few months or quarters. And I think you should be thinking about what can you publish this week. I think most SEOs or content people are probably thinking that and they're blocked on some resourcing capability, but like what can you publish today on your website or these like other third-party sites that you have like partnerships or access with, and how fast can you do that? And you can see much more better results or much quicker results rather if you move quickly. And that becomes the new moat for people in AI search.
For sure.
That leads me to, I don't even know how to articulate this, but this is a very like strategic question that I have. And it's really about like, if you think of a SWOT analysis and like a company, who's very early, challenger brand, maybe even completely nascent, just raised capital, and they're kind of like coming to market in a saturated space versus like the classic enterprise incumbent who's got a lot of brand awareness, right? I feel like there's stereotypically, the incumbent is going to be slower to act and less agile. However, there's kind of a Matthew effect or like a cumulative advantage that they have because they've probably been present in the training data, first off. All of the lists and review sites probably mention them. I mean, we could just say Salesforce as an example, right? And if there's a challenger brand, they're nowhere. So it's kind of like the incumbent has a head start, for instance. So when it comes to AI search, is there a winner takes all dynamic? Is there some moat that you have just via having such brand awareness naturally, like outside of any tactics you do, any AEO you do?
Yes.
If you have billboards and you're running ads in Mets Stadium, I
can give you an example. Yeah, like Toyota. Does Toyota have 10 different comparative listicle pieces of content comparing the RAV4 with the Chevy Tahoe? No. But what Toyota has is a ton of brand equity. So if I ask what's the best SUV or best pickup truck, the LLM is going to say Toyota, regardless of what it knows about Toyota from the pieces of content. I mean, like, I think AI search it's both a disruptors market and an incumbents market, in that the incumbents need to be defensive because the upstarts have so much potential energy. it's not hard to exert yourself and to create hard-hitting, hyper-focused content that gets you to rank for things that in traditional search you just simply wouldn't be able to reach within the time period that you can reach it in AI search. So it's like every brand in the world has that kind of like nuclear button where now they can start, if they have the data, they can start making an impact and really ruining some very big companies' days.
Yeah.
What? Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, that's like the one example I can give you is Profound. Like we're not the incumbent in this space. Like we're the new entrant. I mean, we were founded a year ago, and like in SEO terms, our domain is still quite new.
Yeah.
But if you look at our Profound account for all of the topics that we track, like we go up against large incumbents in the space. And I think you'd be surprised at how visible we are compared to other like large incumbents based on our own data.
And is that because you're flanking them, as in like you're not going head to head for what they're known for best? As in you can move faster in the AI first space, like AI, AEO, those types of terminologies, as opposed to, I'm assuming that there's no incumbent in AEO, right?
No.
Because it's such a new space, right?
Like in that space,
I'm implying like who your incumbents are, but
it's probably like we're probably the incumbent in AEO, like the market leader, depending on how you
guys
guys
we talk about search as a whole or organic platforms as a whole. Yeah. You're not playing head to head, and that's how you're able to win in AI visibility.
It's guerrilla warfare. Yeah, AI visibility is guerrilla warfare for sure.
Like,
you pick and choose your engagements.
Yeah, they were slow. Like the incumbents were very slow to adapt, both on like the product side and the content side as well. And I think there's still a big gap of like how much content we have for AEO and research and all of that stuff compared to some of the larger players in the space too. And like this is a case where speed and velocity like absolutely won.
Yeah. What are some other tactics that startups or under-resourced companies can use to like outpace the incumbents?
Want to talk about Wikipedia?
Yeah, like Wikipedia is good. It's a bit harder for startups depending on the scale. Like when I was at Loom, I helped build our Wikipedia page, and like Series C is kind of like the mark of like if you're there or later, you have a much easier time getting a Wikipedia entry created. But if you're before Series C, then you might not have enough like tier 1 press mentions. And so like that is kind of one angle. I think the other maybe like underappreciated angle for what like early stage companies can be doing is like affiliates. Affiliates in lots of different categories is a very easy, pretty low lift pay to play of like, oh, I pay you this or give you X% cut of every sale, whether it's like SaaS or, CPG or whatever. Affiliate sites dominate AI search. And so I think like if you don't have a lot of resources internally, like look externally too.
It's true.
How do you? I've never made a Wikipedia page. I would assume it's very difficult. Didn't you on the forum say that you're a Wikipedia editor?
I did. Yeah, I'm a Wikipedia editor.
Was that before?
That's before. Yeah.
So you've been editing Wikipedia pages long before. AEO was, okay.
That's how I was in
college. Tell me about that a little bit.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. But to be clear, Josh did not make our Wikipedia page.
I did not make a Wikipedia page. I just helped with the legal. I mean, like actually, the interesting thing is like I made an early draft. That draft, it was just way too early in the company's history to actually earn that and get it. And then Nick here just took like a good look at it and was like, maybe it's time. Maybe we could look at it. And so we just kind of waited for someone to do it ourselves. But then, yeah, it's been interesting. We just got one a few weeks ago and we were very lucky to do so. So we're excited. It's been incredibly helpful. Yeah. I mean, really a Wikipedia page is like a big golden stamp for AI engines, like especially ChatGPT. ChatGPT will be like, all right, you're asking about, the best startups in New York. It checks Wikipedia first right now. And I'm like, for anyone who's listening or watching, it might be a few months or years after, but if you're going to look at ChatGPT in the next few days or weeks, if you ask what's the best startup in New York, Profound is liable to show up at least some percentage of the time, like a pretty notable percentage of the time. And the source citation is going to be Wikipedia. Yeah. It's really, really interesting.
I think for anyone listening who's like, okay, how do I make a Wikipedia page?
Yeah, can you just create your own?
Yeah, like you can't. There are services out there that'll do them. And like that's the best way to go. But before that, you really need a lot of tier 1 press mentions. So like New York Times, Wall Street Journal, ideally that are not fundraising related, which I think that is the biggest barrier for most early stage companies too, of all of their press mentions is Series A, Series B fundraising. And so how do you get other mentions beyond that? In a sense, like Profound was lucky that we've ridden this wave of AI search interest. And so we're getting lots of mentions that are non-fundraising related, which is how we were able to get a Wikipedia page created so quickly.
PR is back.
PR. Yeah, PR is way back. Whenever, again, like the demos I've done, like PR teams are interested or on those calls, like 30 to 40% of the time. They're very interested in what shows up in AI search, I was just at a large fast food chain's headquarters last week, doing a pitch on Profound, and their PR person came up to me afterwards and they were like, what are the 4 or 5 things I can be doing in my PR content to be cited more in AI search? And so I like rattle off, like the most common things of like, bullet points, tables, FAQs. Like,
yeah. What are the 4 or 5 things?
Go on. Those things. I mean, like Josh would be able to better answer this than me, but she was very interested in this. And so I think like PR is totally back, and also like a good advocate to have at the table. If you're an SEO trying to get buy-in for tools or whatever, like go ask your PR, your comms team, because I guarantee you they will be interested in how their brand shows up in AI search too. Yeah. But I'll let Josh answer the tactics.
Basically, the organizing principle is that you need structured information on every single one of your pages. So answer engines need to be spoon-fed what and how the page is organized. So things like HTML tables that literally will collect the key points of your written out paragraphs and distribute them across rows, columns, literally like 3-4 words per each cell. Just like if it's a product comparison piece. So what's the best CRM? You have to put a nice HTML table in there. You want it to be renderable. You want to make that comparison really easy, really digestible. Same thing with bullet points, where you could have a really long meandering paragraph, 3-5 bullet points, each kind of self-contained with its own self-contained insight, kind of one big thesis, one data point proven. That kind of stuff is citation crack, basically. The answer engine is going to go, usually it pulls 80 to 100 characters at a time from any given page. It brings that out. That's what it like learns from the web page. That's it. So if you have this long, like one thing we see is like for medical things or finance related stuff, you have stuff from like Harvard who's talking about like, here's this study of this and this, here's the study of like fitness trackers. The problem is Harvard's not nearly being concise enough. So you have random like mom blogs that are writing like really opinionated pieces about fitness trackers who unintentionally are doing really well in AEO because they've got really tight, well formatted, concise, structured information about these different products or about how they stack up to each other. And so contextualizing your piece, really sectioning it, really dividing it up, chopping it up, making it bite-sized, it's an incredible advantage within AEO. I mean, I would say probably 20 to 30% extra boost to your citations.
Yeah. The one thing I'll add to that like is very specific is a lot of SEOs and content people are used to putting graphics and visuals and like infographics on their page in just an image or some like embeddable JavaScript where you can like hover over it and looks pretty for humans. Duplicate that, but in an HTML table. Yes. And so if you have like an infographic that's a pie chart, put that in a table. We do that across all of our blog content on Profound too. And then that is how the AI agent can go and find it, because it doesn't go look at the image or, a JavaScript embed, which it can't look at all. And so like start duplicating your infographics as like raw HTML tables in your content.
In some way, and I don't want to be the, AEO is just SEO guy. It does sound like some of these are just natural best practices for like human readability as well, with maybe some marginal differences in terms of like shorter snippets where you directly answer a question. But yeah, like tables and bullet points, like as opposed to, I guess like I see on LinkedIn a lot, there's a lot of hand wavy advice and we can dive into some of that. It's like, oh, brand mentions it in the new backlinks, get some brand mentions. Uh-huh. You're like, okay, how? Like that's really fucking hard.
Yeah.
But people are like, oh, structured content, structured data. And I'm like, well, as opposed to unstructured, like a wall of text, like what are we doing here?
Yeah, kind of.
But yeah, I would assume there's some marginal, like there's better, clarity in like tables, for instance. That's going to be a much
I mean, like
advantage.
the short of it is that like the practices in SEO and AEO at like the most basic level, yeah, they look similar, but again, this is optimization. So there's a great difference, I think, between like answer engine good enough and answer engine optimization and really maximizing how that structure should be actually laid out. Like we know things like semantic URL slugs of 5 to 7 words they literally earn 11.4% more citations on average than a URL slug of like 3 words or a URL slug of more than that.
So longer URL slugs are performing better?
Yes, longer, more contextualized URL slugs
contrary
perform better.
to SEO.
Exactly.
Because you would usually just use head term in the slug.
Precisely.
Oh, that's
exactly.
interesting.
Yeah, there's tons of little interesting things like that. Like 2025 in your title tag performs better innately. Do you want to know why?
Well, they want fresh information, I'm guessing.
Yes. So when you put in ChatGPT, what's the best men's running shoe? ChatGPT regularizes the query and passes that along to SERP API it passes best men's running shoe 2025 into SERP API and pulls those results are inherently biased towards articles with 2025 in the title tag or 2025 in the meta or the URL slug, but no one wants to do it in the URL slug because of redirects.
I was just going to say, what do you do next year? I'm thinking management headache now. I'm like, do we just like produce your page every year?
Well, with your title tag though, it does make sense. You just update your title tag.
Sure.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And so like, there are things you can do even inside the content of like, when we're thinking about bullet points, it's like best for segments perform much better than just saying like the product is really good for these reasons. It's like like Adobe is best for professional creatives and people who are, and students or whatever, right? Like literally contextualizing the ideal user group we've found has been incredibly helpful in AEO, but you wouldn't know that from SEO as well. So like, I think there's a long way you can go to maximizing AI performance using the way I kind of say it is that like, we are using the same muscle groups, right? We're using the same units, URL slugs, on-page content, HTML tables, but we're doing totally different exercises, right?
One is jiu-jitsu, one is judo.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's been a long day, long week. Where was I going to go with that? Structure. The thing that I've been seeing sometimes is this chunking thing.
Chunking.
Where I've seen some articles where it's like 100 H2s and then there's like 2 sentences after each. Which looks dumb to me, just like as a user. Is that like something that's interesting or helpful, or
it's
is that just like
interesting?
Yeah,
I think that's an example taken too far.
Is that over optimization?
That's over optimization.
This is the peak of the midwit me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Like just write the page.
I think there's I think if you have an H2 and you have like a paragraph after that H2 and you have some bullet points after that and like a concluding paragraph to that H2, you're not going to kill your AEO. I think the important part is that if I looked up what's the rent in San Francisco and your page is like, there are many cities in California and of those cities, San Francisco is one of them. And there are many places to rent. Or if you want a page that says the average rent in San Francisco is $2,700 for a studio, $3,100 for a 1-bedroom, $3,400 for a 2-bedroom, up 3% from last year, the second page is going to get cited every single time. And the positioning with which that information is in the HTML often has an impact, not like a great impact, but it does. Like we know, those BuzzFeed style articles. It's like, what's the best SUV for like a family, where it'll start with like the worst SUV at like the top of the article. We often see that the answer engines will pull like literally the worst SUV because it literally lives at the top of the HTML. Yeah, that's an interesting one because it doesn't understand the inverse ranking order. So it'll pull like, oh yeah, this like random, the Acura is great. I'm like, the Acura was ranked the worst. What are we doing? But that's also changing with GPT-5 is actually pretty good at that.
It feels like those problems are probably going to get solved or ironed out over the next few years. So there's probably going to be a lot of like arbitrage or weird.
There's a ton of arbitrage right
tactics or whatever, but I don't know how you guys think about those. But I always think over the long arc, what's kind of be, first principles, like what is ChatGPT trying to do and what is my brand trying to do? And if I can align those vectors, then that's my best bet, as opposed to this works for 2 months and almost certainly they're going to solve this problem.
It comes down to contextualization. Yeah. Every brand in the world should have textual content on their site that contextualizes why their product exists, where it stands in the market, who it's for, and what it does. That's like that's the ground truth. Everything else is in service of that goal to provide answer engines that information. You'd be surprised how many brands fail that very simple like Turing test of like brand existence for AI. Like huge Fortune 500s, tons of e-commerce companies. None of that data is really apparent or out there.
Shockingly, I feel like some of the largest brands we've worked with or who have come to us specifically for AEO, GEO concerns, they have the highest visibility but the weakest presence because their product marketing and brand has been so diluted through multiple probably revisions and reviews and red tape and whatever, that when somebody searches for their category and it talks about the brand, the pros will be like, oh, it integrates with all the other products in this brand's platform, right? And it's like, oh, we don't want it to say that. And it's like, but that's what you wrote on your website and that's what the web is saying about you. That leads me to an interesting point on, so the modern org chart or the modern SEO or GEO team or AEO team, it seems like there's much, we talked about PR, brand, product marketing. This feels like we're rising one layer up in the organization and it has to be much more cross-functional. So how do you view, I guess like, you worked on SEO, right? How does the SEO team change in the face of like AI search? And is it the SEO team who is in charge of AEO?
I think SEO deserves a lot more authority now in these rooms. I think we're in a situation where we're going to see very empowered SEO teams who are really starting to lead things across. I mean, SEO theoretically should have their hands in PR, should have their hands across social, should be thinking about everything from affiliate, earned, those kind of partnerships, all the way to individual messaging points, if they're the ones that own AEO, all the way down to like product level kind of decisions. That's, I think, the way that we're heading, because it's starting to be very clear that these engines and these answer engines, they respond to everything that exists about the brand, all of the ephemera, in a very different way than, back at HubSpot, it really was like the blog, the academy. It was like we had two really simple arenas to play in, and you would maximize those arenas. Now it's like we are in a situation, like I said, it's like guerrilla warfare. Like, who's a combatant, who's a civilian? I don't know anymore. It's like the whole world is a battlefield when you're thinking about AEO, and you can use that information to try to maximize your visibility, or you're going to get mired in trying to control the company if they don't give you the right amount of authority. If you don't have the right seats at the table, it's going to be really tricky.
Yeah, like SEO is sexy now.
Yes,
like
SEO is sexy.
Historically a job that you get $100 a month for this one SEO tool. Oh, you can buy $200 a year to get Screaming Frog or whatever. Like, that's your SEO budget for the year. You know, that this is coming from the paid guy who has managed like millions of dollars in budget. Like, SEO is sexy now. Like, they're the brand. They're the part of the marketing org that's getting all the attention from the leader, the board, their investors. Everyone cares a lot about this now, and I think smart and forward-thinking SEOs are maybe adopting this and embracing it more than resisting it, because it's their unlock to getting more budget, more like maybe like more authority is like maybe kind of like the wrong word, but like more influence and and also this more visibility into what their work is doing and producing for the business too.
Mm-hmm. I think the tactics are interesting, but on this point, like the org is very interesting, and I do agree that SEO is cool again. But you guys work with a lot of really interesting brands, forward-thinking brands. How are you seeing CMOs reallocating resources and headcount and team structure? Or how should they be thinking about that? How should marketing leaders be thinking about setting up their orgs? Because I feel like some of that just facilitates the work. It's kind of like the necessary foundation to actually do all of the things that we're talking about on Brand Mentions Reddit. We haven't talked about YouTube yet, but owned content. Like, what does the team look like now?
Yeah, I'll maybe give my perspective of what I think companies should do, and then maybe Josh can add like what some of our customers are doing as he's on the front lines there. What I think companies should be doing is, again, to my earlier point of investing in velocity. I forget who coined this term, but like the idea of a content engineer, of someone who is building systems that can create, repeatable, scalable, high quality content for brands. And so less so hiring a pool of freelance writers, but more so how do you build a whole workflow? And Profound is kind of like approaching this like workflow state internally as well. And so how do you build teams like that enable you to ship quick, high quality content on your own website and maybe external websites too? I think one or two content engineers can become what a go-to-market engineer is in like the world of like Clay and RevOps and that stuff too. It's like if I'm a CMO, I'm thinking of how do I unblock my marketing team to move quickly here, because AI search results can change every single day. And so how do we push out a lot more content than our other competitors could do? I see large, Series E, Series D companies who have a content team of one person, and I'm in their Slack channel, and like their velocity is quite slow of producing new content. And so I think that is like one area to really focus on.
So the trend you're seeing there is basically leaner content operations and then a reallocation towards your analogy was the GTM engineer, but for content specifically. So basically you can facilitate greater throughput, probably repurposing, but generally it's going to be a leaner operation, it sounds like. Yeah.
I think in the age of AI, every marketing team is going to be a bit leaner than it was historically.
Yes. Yeah, exactly right. I mean, that's my perspective as well. I think the thing that we're seeing on the customer side is that people and CMOs, CEOs, boards, everyone wants to see some action. Everyone wants to see movement. They want to see the beginning of some momentum, some inertia. I think the greatest determinant of success with a platform like Profound, or even just like an AEO platform in general, is your ability to start experimenting. And so it's usually kind of a tiger team, or it's usually kind of a handpicked group of marketers who are going to come in. They have wide-ranging authority to go ahead and make those changes, get posts out there by any means necessary, get some results, pick up a little bit of momentum, and use that to sell out to the rest of the org. Okay, we can do this for the PR team. We can talk to social now. We can go here. We can go there. But yeah, I think what we need to be thinking about is how we make changes on our website, how we make changes to the brand at a rapid pace so we can invest when there are those big arbitrage opportunities when something like Reddit goes up 800%. It's definitely an interesting time for marketing because I think a lot of the gloves are off. Like it's a little bit unshackled in a good way. So it's exciting to see marketing orgs, especially in the Fortune 500 and maybe even like Fortune 100, get kind of as lean and as like down and dirty with it as they can.
Reddit's going to be so fun. It's absolutely just the incentive structure is just ripe for gamification, and we'll see how Reddit and their barriers to entry and spam filtering goes. But I remember back in the day you were talking about it. I mean, it sounds like you were a relatively white hat Wikipedia editor, but back in the day, way back in the day, this is a long time ago, I did some sketchy stuff on Reddit, just like for marketing purposes.
I think in like Reddit's defense, like, communities, they have all those, like every subreddit has its own unique rules, like a post in one subreddit might not fly in another one. And so there's a bit of like self-moderation there that I think might save the Reddit community from marketers at large.
I think they're better than average in terms of like surface areas that you can think about. But I mean, I usually don't go into this, but there's like a lot of ideas that I could be like, you could do that, you could do that, you could do that. If you really wanted to, you could do this. So on the team, so that makes a lot of sense to me from a team side. I think the word is really agile. That makes a lot of sense. What about from the individual side? Like, what does the modern organic growth marketer look like? You went through this track, right? SEO to GEO, AEO. I keep saying GEO. What new skills does that person need, or should they be developing? Think like mid-career, somebody's like been doing SEO for a long time. They're like, how do I stay on the bleeding edge? And maybe what is less important nowadays?
I think you have to abandon any sort of notion of certainty. I think that has been the biggest shift I've had from moving from SEO to AEO is that in SEO, we want to know that everything is controlled for. We want to have our experiments done and then done again and then validated and then twice validated to understand every molecule of what is going to happen, every element of that attribution. Well, the attribution funnel has just been run through by like literally just like a huge nuclear bomb freight train craziness. So that's completely in tatters on the railway. Then you have basically, at the same time, the model that's driving people is completely off the rails as well because it's moving around like crazy, like citing things, shifting, always changing. So I think there is this kind of excitement around having to both, you don't need to look for what is the totality of what's going to happen and what has happened, but you really need to learn how to capture the moment, seize it, execute, create content, get it out, get it pushed. I think the things that SEOs need to learn how to do is be way better internal advocates for what they're doing and what they're pushing. Like they need to learn how to get people in the room and talk about what they're driving and how that's working and messaging across marketing orgs. Number one. I think two, again, forgetting the decisiveness. Three, I think getting really comfortable with creating content that's aided at least a little bit by AI. Like let AI write the brief and then you go in and you create it. Get okay with actually partnering with those tools and building out things that are based on data, but not necessarily human written from the beginning to the end. That's important, but that's like everyone's saying, adopt AI. Like that's like par for the course in 2025, but it's still essential. I think social SEOs really need to start learning about the power of social from like an SEO perspective. I see a lot of SEOs who are doing it. I see a lot of SEOs who are not, and really thinking about how they can lean into PR and earned huge opportunities. And really, that's not something that SEOs ever really touch or do. So I think it's really about learning how to be the most full, like it's prime time for SEO. They can either rise to it or they can kind of fall out. But if they want to rise to it, they've got to learn how to influence the whole org.
Yeah. And as an early stage marketer, my whole career, like I think the lines between different job titles are much more blurred now. Like in my day job, like I bounce between doing, GEO, paid. I've run webinars. I hosted a party in our office a couple of weeks ago. I think like very early stage companies, the more flexible.
So in your closing deals, you're in the sales team as well.
Yeah, I'm closing deals. Like I've posted ARR. I posted screenshots in our like closed won deals channel. I've done all those things well because it's fun. Like that's the part of early stage companies I enjoy. But also it's because you can just do things. Yes. I think your ability to do anything that's within a marketing function function has never been easier now because of AI. And I think the more anyone who's maybe more early or mid stage in their career, like embraces the just do it mentality, I think depending on what kind of company they're at, if that company values that sort of work, I think you can do quite well.
I do think there's an interesting bifurcation. It may not be that simple, but to Josh's point on this like uncertainty component, I'll drop that phrase once in a while from Game of Thrones. Littlefinger, he was like, chaos is a ladder. And it's like a chaotic time. And there's kind of two broad groups of people, and again, nuance in the middle. But it's like the people who look at that and they're like, wow, this is awesome. I'm excited to problem solve, like jump in the deep end and just figure it out.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to know all the answers, but like this is actually a very exciting time. And then there's the other group that is throwing their hands up in the air and they're like, I don't know what to do. GEOs, SEOs, I'm just going to do what I did before. And I think the former group is the one that is better suited to the modern era, right? And I think that's true across most dimensions. Even if we're not talking about AI search, it's like, how are you implementing AI? How are you doing content engineering? Like all of those things necessitate a level of I'm nervous. I've never done this before, but that nervousness, if you do a little mental remodeling, you can turn that into excitement.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, like we all have that feeling. It's like, how do you channel it?
Yeah,
exactly.
What is you'd mentioned social. What is the value of social for SEO?
Social is consensus, right? So the answer engines are not going to cite the same source 23 times to come to an answer. They need a diverse array of sources. LinkedIn becomes that source. Reddit becomes that source. Now Instagram's crawlable. We're not seeing Instagram as like a huge source of citations, but it's there now. It's definitely being crawled. Facebook, YouTube, those places are where brands can go to, you create the narrative on the owned pages, but then you go to social, to a second channel that you control ostensibly, to really cement it in the answer engine's mind. Like when you're talking about, I was over at HubSpot. HubSpot would hate to be called a tool or a platform. We're a platform. HubSpot's a platform. We want to push that messaging through. If we're going to have a resource, and this is like very, there's tons of things about HubSpot, but imagining HubSpot could control this, we would be pushing our messaging through across both LinkedIn Pulse, across Reddit threads, on the owned site, to build out this body of work that when an answer engine goes to those sites, it says, well, I saw this on, HubSpot.com. That's cool. And I also saw it on this LinkedIn post. What we're seeing is the answer engines are not being considerate right now of where that content's actually from on the user side. They just believe, all right, it's a different domain. It's a verified alternative source. I'm going to use that narrative as well. And then I'm going to go to YouTube, and it's a different domain, and it's totally different from this LinkedIn post and this blog from HubSpot. So I'm going to use that source too. In reality, they're very similar. They're pretty much the same narrative 3 different times. It's been incredibly helpful to try to push narratives through and get things that are, obviously really concisely said, captured and aligned with your expectations of answer engine outputs.
In a sense, it's like, I agree with all of that. This broadening of the worldview of the SEO is very interesting. It's like social, Reddit, YouTube, owned content. It's kind of a tracking nightmare.
Yes.
That's the one thing that I think, to your earlier point on being a better advocate internally, that's true in a sense, and it's simple to say, but then like a lot of CMOs or marketing leaders will ask for justification as to why this is an input. And I think some of your research, Profound, that y'all are putting out helps do that. Social is probably a facilitation function, not necessarily like the proximate reason that your AI visibility is going to go up, right? It's one of those things that like builds compound value. And I always say like you want to create a sense of like ubiquity for your brand or brand gravity, where it's like all of these different touch points that even in absence of LLMs, somebody sees you. It's like Gong back in the day, right?
You'd be very surprised.
At what?
I work with customers who have 20% visibility. They post on the top 10 Reddit threads in their industry, top 10 cited. I've worked with a customer who took their visibility on Google AI reviews to 80% in a month.
Interesting.
In a month, just using Reddit. They didn't post on their own blog. They didn't have a blog.
So there is some low-hanging fruit.
There is a ton of low-hanging fruit.
I guess you could do like small experiments to kind of prove that stuff out too. But I wanted to ask about the tracking. Profound is one of the leaders in the, let's say, the analytics layer of AI search.
Yeah.
What is the new model when it comes to like what should marketers be tracking? in opposition to the old model of like impressions, ranks, click-through rate, traffic, etc.
Yeah, I think, and this is not new hat. This is actually quite old hat. But if you're a B2B SaaS company and you don't have a "How did you hear about us" field on your form, like, you are doing it wrong. The amount of incredible insights you get from that field and the amount of other companies I see who don't use it is mind-boggling. It's the foundation of my attribution model of how I look at leads and where they come from. The only caveat is that you tell that to Pepsi or Red Bull, they don't really care. Like, that's not where their in-purchase happens. But to me, like, that is the one thing to look at, measure, build reporting around all these different metrics. And if you're not doing it, like, you should do it today.
Yeah. We do that. Obviously, we're a small business, so I can just implement a form. But I am the salesperson and the content creator.
Yeah.
And on sales calls, if somebody says they came through AI or ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever, I always ask them what they searched and like what their prompts looked like.
Yeah.
And a significant percentage of the time, the prospect will screen share and they'll show me the prompts, which then I can feed back into what prompts I'm tracking. Which is this really interesting flywheel or feedback loop, because then I get more and more data on kind of nascent topics and pain points. But then obviously we can see that outside of Google Analytics and referral traffic, AI has a much larger impact that is quote unquote invisible unless we had self-reported, right?
Correct.
Yep. Yeah. And then, like, outside of self-reported, like, the other piece that Profound has is we have CDN integrations with Cloudflare, Vercel, Netlify, Fastly, Amazon CloudFront. Akamai is coming soon, where, like, we connect and, like, download all the server logs and help look at what bots for training or visiting your website, how many human referrals are you getting, because we see the full, like, user agent there. And so for companies who use those different CDN, layers to host their website, that's another layer where you can add on and say, hey, here's the metrics behind some of this too.
How does a marketer use that data in conjunction with, say, referral traffic and Google Analytics?
Yeah, I'll let Josh take this one.
Yeah. I think when we're thinking about the crawlability and the referral traffic data, you have to think of it as like a microcosm of your total influence. So we can compute like a rough click-through from an answer engine. We know you have 10,000 citations. This is literally from, actual bot accesses of your pages. We know that you have 500, or let's just go with 1,000 actual pieces of referral traffic. People have come onto the pages. Once you know that, you can roughly extrapolate, all right, what's our CVR from a click? Fine, we can get the value of like a click. That's fine, cool. Been there, done that. I think the more important piece is actually understanding that citation rate and that actual influence rate through the citations themselves. So we have prompt volumes. We can see how often people are asking certain questions. If your brand is large enough, you can even get a sense for how many people are actually asking branded questions about you. So if I go to like Red Bull, I can see that Red Bull's got 1 million queries over the last 2 weeks across the world. That paired with looking at the literal citations on your page will tell you exactly what people are kind of asking for. So I can see if someone's looking at like redbull.com/ Felix Baumgartner jumps from 65,000 meters or whatever. Okay, people are really interested in like this media execution, that one, all right, this one, that one. Oh, and the fourth page, maybe it's like Red Bull's new like coffee drink, whatever. Okay, great. So a lot of people are probably asking about like the caffeine segment, the coffee segment of Red Bull. It's all caffeine segment. We're going to look at the actual accesses over time. We're going to look at the referrals. We're going to cross correlate that to our existing analytics. So it's like, to me at least, it's like dark alchemy right now, because you have to be able to be opinionated enough to slice it for the direct brand. So if I'm working with Red Bull, it's going to be very different than working with, I don't know, Starbucks. But if I'm working across those kind of brands, typically there are a few units that the marketing team is going to be able to agree on. We can latch onto those. Some companies only care about visibility. Some only care about citation share. Like some companies will ask things about their brand, like, what's, how many milligrams of caffeine is in Red Bull? Mm-hmm. Red Bull would ask that question, and we would tell them how influential they are in providing the answer to that question, because they're obsessed with product accuracy. So that's its own self-serving KPI of like, okay, you don't own your own product narrative. That's a really big problem. So there's a bunch of different ways you can really look at it. I don't think anyone's decided on the singular way yet.
Right. And we implied this, but it sounds like we should track visibility in relation to prompts as well.
Absolutely.
Which is what Profound does,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I've seen this question all over the place, and I'm sure it's the one you get, I don't know about the most, but like, what is prompt volume and how is that calculated? How accurate is it? how usable is it? Tell me about prompt volume.
Yeah. So it's funny. We have a video coming out tomorrow where we sat our data scientists down and just asked them a bunch of questions of how does prompt volume work? Because everyone is asking us, which I think is very fair questions. And then a week or two after that, we'll come out with another video where we have Michael King from iPullRank just interviewing our data scientists, like asking them all the questions that SEOs want to ask of where is this data? Where does it come from? The TLDR is it's basically 40 different opt-in GDPR compliant data panels that we've acquired 100 plus million real user conversations on, and then hired, two brilliant data scientists, Ali and Sid from the Profound team, to build out a predictive model based on all of that to then say, hey, how do you go in and look at how many people are looking for credit cards, based on all of those different conversation volumes. And it works across the US, UK, like 10 different regions. We just added demographic data and household income data to it. If you look at the prompt volume product within Profound, it's actually quite interesting of how you can slice and dice all of this data. But by the time this comes out, our big explainer video will be out that will do probably a much more eloquent job of explaining it than I did.
All right, perfect. Well, in the meantime, maybe we can use that as a clip that you can use as an answer when people on LinkedIn ask you.
Hopefully that was good enough.
It's 100% based in real prompts. So that's the insane part that I think SEOs don't understand, is that it is completely based. It's not like some predictive stuff. It's not like we're kind of making it up with ML or, it's synthetic.
It's real.
It's legitimately, we would show the raw prompts, but it's literally people's social security numbers.
Right. You have to summarize those in a sense, though, and because there's highly specific. Exactly. And then kind of extrapolate.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I think it's
directional.
I think it's better than just being purely directional too. It's hyper directional, I would say.
Yeah. I think the one way we also integrate that into the Profound product, to do a quick plug too, is that because we have these real user conversations, we compare those to what prompts you've set up in Profound.
Exactly.
And we say, hey, you're missing some. And so let's add these 5 or these 10 prompts to your Profound account because our data says that real users are asking those questions and you're not tracking them. And so that's kind of how we tie those together.
I like that. We have a couple minutes left. I want to do overrated, underrated for AEO. So give me an answer and then you can do a quick justification, but no long exposition.
Okay.
Backlinks.
Overrated.
What
matters more right now, the answer engines don't know how many backlinks your piece of content has. So what matters more right now is semantic mentions in the content. Well, people are is that just a backlink? Well, you don't need the link anymore. So you can just be mentioned in the content. It's a lower bar, I think, to a backlink. In essence, you'll probably still get the backlink, but I think there shouldn't be this idolization of it.
Reddit.
Underrated.
Really? Yeah, underrated. Super underrated. No, it's super underrated.
So underrated.
LLMs.txt.
Overrated.
Yeah.
Social media.
Underrated.
Very underrated.
That might be one of the most underrated. YouTube or video.
Video is rated. We need more accessibility on YouTube. So Google's got lock on that. And Perplexity is scraping it, I think, through the metadata of the YouTube video.
It probably depends on the platform, right, that you're optimizing for.
Yeah,
whereas AI mode and AI overviews is going to heavily index on YouTube. Whereas
could be a huge unlock. Could be. It has the potential, but it hasn't reached that point yet.
Yeah, and the barrier to YouTube is always so high. It just takes longer to make.
I would say it's weirdly underrated for B2B though, because consumer does video really well. But I'm you guys can just rip a bunch of videos on these questions and immediately gonna pop into these citations.
1,000%.
What about review sites like G2 and
underrated?
And whatnot?
Underrated. Very underrated.
Big arbitrage opportunity. Yeah. And the more niche, the better.
Yeah. Sorry, the plug is that go look at the AEO category in G2 and see who's number 1 right now.
What about website performance?
Speed, page speed?
Yeah.
I'm going to go with underrated still. Yeah. It's a fundament. We can't forget that.
I would my phrasing on that is technical website work, I would say is also underrated too.
I was thinking about how to bucket that, whether it was just technical website product management as a whole, but then there's
JavaScript is still not renderable. So don't forget, if you're rendering your stuff with JavaScript, if your technical SEO implementation is kind of trashy.
Technical AEO now.
Technical AEO is a real thing.
1,000%.
You want to make sure that content's visible server side.
What about information architecture?
I think it's important. What do you mean by that? The subfolders on the domain?
Navigation.
Yeah, breadcrumbs, those are all important. But that's just good for crawlability anyway.
Yeah.
I wouldn't recommend anyone against it. I definitely would not be you don't want more navigation.
Rated.
What about just, let's say, content owned content marketing, on-site content?
Probably rated to like underrated a little bit.
Rated to underrated, yeah. Especially if you're a CEO who's like, I don't let my team write X versus Y comparative listicles. Like that stuff is so underrated.
So good. Yeah, super underrated.
I think so too, especially for the startups too. It's like less red tape. Let's just go.
The only way I would say it's overrated is everyone knows to do it already. That's the only thing. But I think it still has tremendous power. It's like very rated.
We're basically at time. Did I forget anything? Is there anything else you'd want to?
No.
Thanks for having us.
You asked great questions. Thank you so much for having us,
absolutely.
Alex.
All right, tryprofound.com.
Tryprofound.com.
Post the links in the description.
Please.
All right,
Great.
cool.
Awesome.
There we go.
Awesome.
Beautiful.